Brought to you by Tailored Wealth, helping business leaders live their version of a rich life.
Welcome to another edition of the Making Sense of Your Money podcast, where we cut through the financial noise and help business leaders to make smart, confident money decisions. Welcome to episode number 20 of the Making Sense of Your Money podcast. I am your host, Dan Pascone. I'm the founder and CEO of Tailored Wealth. And each episode on our podcast features a trusted voice in the financial world, someone who works directly with high-level professionals to simplify the complex and turn strategy into action. I'm pumped about today's guest. We've got with us Kyle Smith, who is a managing partner of the Bridge Group. And Kyle and his team do sales consulting for B2B tech companies, which is near and dear to my heart because I came from a sales leadership background. So thanks for joining us on the Making Sense of Your Money podcast, Kyle. Pumped to have you today.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. All right. So we've got a lot to cover. Kyle's going to share a lot of different things with us today. I'm excited about professionally, personally. Just do us a favor, Kyle. Quick 90-second overview of who you are, what your firm does, and what's kind of got you into that field.
Absolutely. Kyle Smith, managing partner of the Bridge Group. As you just said, we are a sales consulting organization, which can mean 100 different things. But basically what it means for us is that we help technology companies to sell more of their tech. That looks like strategic assessments, which involves organizational design, like how many headcount, in what roles, compensated in what ways, supported by what technologies, playbooks, tactical how-to guides, and then we do some interim management, training, coaching type services.
Very, very cool. Listen, there's a lot that we could certainly unpack there. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this field and sort of like your progression at the firm.
Very accidental.
Okay.
I have a degree in biology. I thought that I wanted to pursue a advanced degree in life sciences and realized I was really sick of being poor. Reached out to a mentor who suggested that I give sales a shot. Did that. That person's name was Trish Bertuzzi. 2 years later, I called her back and asked what I should do next, which company should I go work for, assuming she was going to make a recommendation of a tech company. And instead she said, why don't you come try to do consulting? And that was 2014, joined the Bridge Group on a whim. I said, we'll test this out. And 11 years later, here I am as now owner.
I knew the Bridge Group sounded familiar to me, Kyle. I don't think I told you this before, but I actually know Trish Bertuzzi. So small world. Given my background in my corporate career, I spent a lot of time around great people like her. All right, so that's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about, it sounds like at Tailored Wealth, we deal with a lot of folks that are in revenue generating functions. So, a lot of our audience is going to be familiar with what you do. Let's talk a little bit about the comprehensive sort of nature of your services, because in that brief intro, what you talked about seems like it's a bit more in depth than most sort of sales consultants. And I know that can mean a lot of different things. So tell us a little bit about your process, how you engage with a client, and then ultimately what you help them to achieve.
Our process starts with a pretty rigorous and regimented discovery, like traditional sales process discovery call, figuring out what are we going to do. So we don't do a whole lot of, like, less than 5% of our work I would consider like retainer-based or ongoing time and materials-based work. So almost everything we do is project-based. So we have really specific scope of work with deliverables attached to it that we'll execute over a certain time frame. In terms of the depth that we'll go to, I mean, we've done anything from extremely complicated, nitty-gritty detail org design for a 3,500 person global sales org down to like a really specific small subset. Like we will just build one outreach cadence for a inbound only SDR team, right? So like it can be really broad and be everything, or it can be really specific in a singular thing. But in every single engagement, we go through the same process, which is in-depth immersion, understand their business to the best of our ability as outsiders. We do that through interviews, review data, review all existing materials, listen to call recordings, anything we can really get our hands on to try to see the world through our customers' eyes.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's unpack that a little bit. I'm sure it varies, and I know each customer is very unique and different, but tell us a little bit about like the top challenges that your clients typically face and how you help them to overcome those challenges.
Usually, number one would probably be the equivalent of technical debt. When you are scaling up an organization, everyone talks about technical debt, which is basically a bunch of hacky workarounds that were created by the 6 people in the roles that came before you. There's something similar as it comes to process and structure for a sales team, which is you have something that's in place when you're a $1 million company, when you start hiring salespeople. And then it slowly evolves over time and you kind of hack it together to make it work for every single stage of your evolution. But then at some point, typically some inflection point, like you just took on a round of funding is a great example. And now you need to actually scale in a more intentional and meaningful way. And that would be a time when we would get hired to make sure that the structure makes sense, is repeatable and scalable, because it feels a little bit fragmented or all over the place, or growth is stagnated, performance is dipping, and the individuals in the business aren't exactly sure why. Sometimes it's just an outside pair of eyes, ears, and hands to say what's actually going on here and how do we fix it.
I'm curious, what roles at the organization are you typically engaging with? I'm sure it varies based on the size and scale and maturity of the business, but are you getting hired by the CEO? Are you being brought in by the CRO? Tell us a little bit about who you're working with in your engagements.
If you'd asked me 5 years ago, CEO was much more prevalent. In recent years, we've just not overly intentionally, to be brutally honest, but we were working with just larger organizations. So significantly less startups than we did previously. So way less CEOs hiring us now, still some, but just not the same level of frequency. So primarily you're talking CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, VP Sales, VP Marketing.
Very cool. And you're just coming in and sort of analyzing all aspects of the revenue function. And, for each client, they've got a different outcome that they may be looking to achieve. I get that it's always to produce more revenue, but their problems are going to vary. All right. So let's talk about a couple of things. You mentioned comp plans, right? And I know that's something that your team oversees. And having been a former CRO, I understand how important that is. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do in that space. And then what are some of the challenges that you find when you're analyzing the comp plans of either the sales team, like the actual boots on the ground sales team, or the sales leadership team?
Yeah. So if you're hiring somebody like us, you already have a sales team. And so we're not building something from scratch. So we're always going to be making an adjustment to something that's pre-existing. So as part of that process, we're going to identify how does the comp plan line up to industry benchmarks in terms of the raw basic numbers.
Yep.
So base, OTE, split between base and incentive comp. So are we in line with what that total number equals to market rate? And then once we get into the incentive compensation details, incentive comp drives behavior. So are we actually driving the behavior that the company has told us we want? So there's some big picture or overarching objective that the company's trying to accomplish. And the goal is to just make sure the incentive comp plan that's handed down to sales reps aligns to that goal. And big things that we're looking for are, how do we not turn this into a shadow accounting nightmare where reps are spending 2 hours a week in their own G sheet,
Right,
trying to make sure that they have proper credit and that they even know what they're getting paid. Simplicity is a key factor in that. Is just make it easy to understand. I don't want, if I have a 6-page compensation plan agreement, we've done something horribly wrong and we've made this way too complicated. So simple, core pillar. Second thing would be attainable. So in general, 65% of reps should achieve quota on any given team. And so we want to make sure that looking at historical data and, again, benchmarks, that's something that's actually achievable, the quota is. And then the next piece would be largely in their control and possible for tracking. So can we actually tie proper attribution to the compensation plan? And are the factors that the reps are being compensated within their control? Those would be some of the basics that I would look at right from the start.
Makes a lot of sense. I've seen that in my own career. What is your take on, and maybe what are you seeing as far as benchmarks and standard for today's split between base and incentive pay?
Every year for the last 10 years, more has been going to base. So we collect benchmarking data on this. And so the AE, account executive, like new business closing role, was always like forever and ever 50-50. Right. And now it's like 55-45. So it's not moving dramatically. We're not seeing like these huge shifts, but a 0.5% increase shifting to base every year for 10 years means all of a sudden you're at 55-45, right, which is interesting. Same with the SDR role, actually. More heavily weighted on base than it was previously. It used to be 60-40. Now it's like 67-33.
Do you see that as a recruiting tool? What do you think is driving?
Recruiting plus recruiting largely or mostly. That got ramped up probably more significantly in that post-COVID boom time.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm tech, so that's the world that I know.
Yep.
And so post-COVID tech was on a wild ride. Like everyone was just shooting to the moon, and it was impossible to get talent. So I think, yes, you're right. Part of it is a recruiting tool. I think the other part is, especially within certain orgs, having more on the incentive comp side can, with accelerators, actually introduce unnecessary risk exposure. If you don't know, if you don't have a wealth of historical data to base quotas on,
Right.
and you're just kind of basing it on benchmarks, somebody goes and blows it out of the water, and you were aggressive with your accelerators, then all of a sudden, you're cutting some crazy checks, which if somebody's overperforming is not a bad thing, but that could be part of it. Finance says we need some upside protection, not just downside protection, which can lead to let's just give them more base and be a little bit more conservative on the incentive comp.
Makes sense. How about as you go higher up the food chain in sales to your manager level, your director level, your VP, up to your chief revenue officer? Give us some thoughts on the comp dynamics at those levels.
Yeah, the individual contributors are pretty formulaic.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you with a high degree of accuracy what the comp plans are likely to look like before I see them. When you start talking about second line or executive leadership, there is no consistency whatsoever. They're all over the map in terms of the total number, meaning the total OTE. You could tell me somebody's a 350K VP of sales or somebody's a 700K VP of sales, and I would be not at all surprised in either direction for certain companies. And so those are all over the map. Still 50-50, probably closer to 50-50 plans of base and incentive comp. And then it gets into what stage of evolution is the company at? And then how much are they going to give in terms of a slice of equity? And yeah, where are they going to offer the upside and get you bought in?
Tell us a little bit about how you've seen the evolution of equity comp at those higher levels, specifically within sales leadership post the COVID boom. What have you seen in the last few years? Have there been any trends relative to equity compensation?
I'd say less from the company side. I think the companies are managing it in an extremely similar way.
Yep.
I would say more from the applicant side or the leader side. Not
Tell us more about that.
not chasing that shiny object the way that I noticed that they did 10 years ago, whereas, wow, like I know 30 people who have been part of some, 8-figure exits, and I want to jump on board that. More like I know so many people who took 150K a year less than their market value would demand for equity that never materialized 3 times over.
Right.
So
they're not doing it now anymore. They don't
yeah,
want
there's less people who are like, oh, if I have job offers on the table and I say, based on my experience and all the things that I've done, I'm a 450K resource. I'm not going to take 300 because you're going to give me 2%. Because of dilution and where are we going to? Like there's less acquisitions happening and the multiple came way down. Like we were seeing 13, 14x multiples and everyone could go get sold or go public. Not as many public, but acquisitions were happening like crazy. Now you're seeing like 6x revenue multiples still with dilution happening. And so it's not as appealing. Yeah, I don't know the reality of the situation, but my take on the perception of the situation is that I think less executives think that they are racing towards an easy $10 million exit from their slice of equity.
All right.
And so they want to get paid now for what they're worth.
That definitely checks out in the work that we do, and that makes a lot of sense. That's well said. All right, let's shift gears a little bit, Kyle, and I want to talk a little bit about your sort of financial story. You started off by telling us you had this career path and you decided you didn't want to be poor anymore. I want to unpack that a little bit. And I too had similar journey early out of my career where, sales was something that was attractive, certainly from a financial perspective and from a job perspective. But what really got you into that? And then tell us a little bit about your financial evolution from when you started to where you're at today, which is as a managing partner of the firm.
Yeah. So my family I come from a massive collection of entrepreneurs in every type of business you can imagine. A lot of blue collar contractors, plumbers, electricians. My mom and aunt owned an airport shuttle service in the pre-Uber days that they ran, like a ton of just small business owners. An uncle owned gas stations. We have some franchise owners, stuff like that. And so I use that as the backdrop, like my extended family, bunch of entrepreneurs. My immediate family, like money was always a topic of conversation, and it was always something that there wasn't enough of. And so then you're in college. So that's, up through the first 18 years of life. Then you have college where, for the most part, everyone's poor. And so at that point, you're 22, I was 22, and I mean it, I was so sick of being poor. I just wanted some disposable income or not feel like everything was just a constant struggle, which is why I started opening my eyes to opportunities to earn rather than going down the graduate school path, which is what it would have taken if I stayed in life sciences and pursued a, let's say, PhD. That would have been 5 more years at a minimum of poverty, which I just wasn't okay signing up for. And so it wasn't my idea to pursue sales. It was Trish's. Trish said, "Buy sales. I think you'd be pretty good at it." And
how'd you know Trish?
Trish is my aunt.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. All right. So you get into sales now. Was it an immediate fit? Is that like something that
I fell in love.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was addicted immediately.
Me too.
Yeah. Right away.
Still am?
2 weeks in. 1 week of onboarding, and then they handed me a phone.
Yeah.
And then 1 week of calling. And I think I booked probably like 2 meetings. I worked for an outsourced sales development shop that had technology companies as clients. And I got hooked immediately because right away I started figuring out that my effort could directly correlate to my income, which is right up my alley.
Right. Me too.
I love this.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. And so now lead us down the path to you getting ownership in your own firm. Tell us about like what's on your financial journey now. Like what's important to you from a financial perspective now?
Yeah. Investing and not spending. So right away, like then the second you don't have money. I say, I don't want to be poor. You're like, great. Then you start actually making halfway decent money. And immediately first reaction is spend that money.
Sure.
And I went, like many of my friends, went down the path of like vehicles first. I was like, I'm renting a room in my buddy's house and I'm just buying cars. I went through 5 cars in 5 years, just kept like flipping leases, like just spending not any nice cars, but just like, I'm going to get a new car every single year, just burning money on cars. Right. Bought a house, quickly realized that was a better move than keep buying cars, and then started saving money knowing that I wanted to do something. I didn't know what. I wanted to do something meaningful with the money, buy a business. And then it just so happened that Trish was getting later in career, starting to think about what the long-term succession plan would be. And so I didn't have enough money myself and couldn't even probably get it financed to where I was at that point, and approached some of my colleagues who are also employees at the Bridge Group and say, what if we structured an employee buyout rather than letting this thing go to somebody else who would want to buy it? Let's keep it. And so we approached Trish with an offer, and I started in 2018. I bought 4% that year.
Okay, good for you.
And then took a controlling interest 2 years ago.
Good
3
for
years
you.
ago.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's very cool. All right, tell us a little bit about your investing journey, because I'm sure that was an important piece of getting the capital necessary to start to take ownership in your now business. Talk to us about your theories around investing, what you've done from an investing perspective, and how you've sort of set yourself up to have the necessary savings to own your own firm.
Yeah, I didn't have a strategy until the last 5 years. It was basically make more money. That was my strategy. Is like anytime there was a need, was exert enough effort to make enough money to be able to fund what I wanted to fund. And so there was no long-term strategy at all. It was a never-ending game of make more, which you can only do for so long. It's easy through the first 6 years of your career because you're on almost an exponential growth curve. But guess what? That thing doesn't go forever for the vast majority of us, unless you're whatever, Jeff Bezos or something, I guess. But it just stops, right? So you have to figure out, what should I actually be doing with this? Because I can't just keep chasing higher income potential. And so up until that point, that was the strategy. 5 years ago, I do super boring, which is basically max out 401k, both my wife and I, and then try to do at least, like for us, 40 grand a year in post-tax investments, and then the business.
Got it.
And she's in grad school, which I have chosen for my own sanity to call an investment.
Okay, I like that. That's a good mental framework. I'm with you on that one. All right, that makes sense. As you've come along the way, anything you would have done differently from a financial perspective, knowing what?
Yeah, not bought any cars.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I had a Ford Taurus with like 100,000 miles on it when I graduated, it would have worked just fine. Like I could have driven that thing for at least 3 or 4 years. And then I will never finance a car again. So my wife and I both have only made cash car purchases, and we hang on to them until, repair cars start to escalate. And so we buy certified pre-owned, we buy cash, and even if you could get a low rate loan, I just won't ever finance a car again. And it changes your decision-making process also on what you buy. It's really easy to make an overreach. If you're like, oh, that's $50 a month. Oh, that's $100 a month. It's a lot different when you're like, oh, I'm going to cut a check for 35,000. You're like, oh, yeah, but that next thing, oh, the one with the sunroof is only 42. You're like, $7,000? I am not giving you 7,000. The other one's fine, right? So those minor differences changed our decision-making process, which is how we roll with it now, which has been really helpful. You just make more conscious decisions. And we set, like, not exactly a vision board, but the same general idea. Like, we just had a daughter.
Congrats.
Thank you. I want a short-term rental beach house at a town that I like to go to in Maine. And so that's what's next. That's what I want to do next. So that free cash flow is going towards saving towards an aggressive down payment on something like that will go to whatever, a couple weeks a year, but largely treated as a short-term rental.
It's great. We had on our podcast a guru of short-term rentals, Sean Moore. He was on. He was 2 episodes ago, and he's got a great framework. You should check him out. He's got a great framework for short-term rentals. All right, so we're gonna shift gears now and go into the lightning round. All right, so we do this on every episode. The idea is just give us the first thought. It could be one word, could be a long drawn-out thought. We don't really care. Just give us the first thought that comes to your mind. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do it. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
If you had to eat one meal every day for the rest of your life, what is it?
Pasta.
Okay, like it. What is one tool or piece of technology, could be hardware or software, other than your computer or your phone that you can't live without?
Zoom.
Zoom, okay, I'm with you on that. Favorite quote or phrase about money or success?
I'm probably going to misquote it, but Angela Duckworth in the book Grit said, excellence is achieved through monotony. Something like that.
Love that.
I like
really
it.
Good. Grit's a good one. Yep, that's a good one. Do you have a favorite book on either finance or business, for that matter, or sales?
I actually don't mind. I like a lot of the core principles in Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover.
Okay.
I like some of like the just don't spend like the vast majority of Americans do type of mentality. My favorite book on business is Disrupted, I think it's called.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you know that one?
I do. Yep. I read that a little while ago. Yep.
It's hilarious.
Do you have a personal hack? Could be finance or other related. Do you have a hack you can share with the audience?
No, unfortunately, I know that the avocado toast thing gets a lot of negative press. Like, stop buying avocado toast and I'll be able to afford a house that's whatever 4 times as expensive as boomers bought for. But I actually do think that stuff matters. I think all of those small decisions do add up in $50 increments, and it's not only the $50,000 ones.
Sure. Yep, I agree with you. What's one bucket list item that you've already accomplished?
Maldives.
Very cool. What's one financial milestone that you're currently working towards?
Net worth of $5 million.
There you go. If you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be? Give us something other than buying the cars.
Save money.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
All right. And then finally, Kyle, this has been great. Finally, if our listeners, viewers want to connect with you, collaborate, potentially work with the Bridge Group, what's the best way for them to reach out and connect with you?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's where I do the vast majority of communication, just period.
Very cool. Me too. All right, Kyle, thanks so much for sharing your time and your insights today. We covered a lot. Really appreciate your thoughts and perspective. That's it for the episode. As always, keep your strategy sharp, your goals clear, and your money working as hard as you do. Cheers.